cuts to make. The cupboard is bare. Well, apparently so too is resolve. To David Stockman, who says it's a sign we're headed for another train wreck, and maybe a big one. Of course, Ronald Reagan's former budget director has been warning about this problem, now mushrooming and now about to explode, huh?
Well, I thought I'd heard everything, but that is the silliest statement yet. I mean, we have just gone through massive explosion of the deficit, 17 trillion of national debt, and we're out of it. We're still spending 24% of GDP, and we're 4 years into a recovery. And we have not yet cut one dime from $2.5 trillion of entitlements. We've barely put a pinprick into defense spending or so-called discretionary spending. We have raised taxes. That's out of the way. Now they need to face the monster that they've created. And
but Nancy Pelosi, hey, all the cutting is done. We've done as much as we can do. When you hear that kind of talk from a top Democratic leader, does that give you any confidence they're going to be able to get this act together?
No, but it does tell me why it's so crucial right now that the Republicans take a stand, finally lay down the gauntlet, and let the American people know they have to choose. And if the government gets shut down, that is, for a few days, the national parks are closed, or the Washington
So you would say go ahead and risk a shutdown.
Of course.
Now, with or without it being pegged to the health care law? Or
I would say either or both. Okay? The health care, the Obama health care entitlement is the single largest regulatory and fiscal disaster enacted in the history of America.
So you're on the side of the Senator Ted Cruz's and others who are willing to throw a grenade.
Absolutely. The thing I've learned is that entitlements, once started, never get shut down, never get reformed, always cost dramatically more than the original estimates, and the time to take a stand, do something, is now, before this monster gets started. We have the worst of both possible worlds. Socialism for all the consumers, because it's going to be one big pool of mixed insured payments, and capitalism for the providers. The result will be a constant crony capitalist food fight in which the providers always demand more and the consumers are caught up in a monster bureaucratic system that cannot and will not work. Now, at least the Tea Party Republicans can see that. And at least they haven't been part of the consensus for so long that they're willing to recognize what the priority is.
But a lot of those Tea Parties are dead set against revenues. In other words, higher taxes.
About revenue.
I understand
I'm talking about right now.
No, I understand
yes,
it. But
right.
you also said we addressed the tax hikes at the outset of your comments.
Right.
So do you feel that that portion has been addressed and we should focus on spending cuts right now?
Yeah, because you have to deal with the matter before you.
And the matter before us is
in January,
what?
They made a mistake by extending all the tax cuts, but at least some of them were allowed to expire.
Like those in the upper income.
Now, yes, and now the matter before us is to stop Obamacare dead in its tracks. Do not allow it to incept and to begin to distort and control this entire 2.7
But David, their argument, some of the rhinos, I guess, for lack of a better name, the Republican and name-only type say, look at the numbers, guys. You made a good argument and a credible offer in the House. It's dead water in the Senate. Even if you did get a vote to do so in the Senate, in other words, attach the next budget resolution to keep the government going through December with, a cut in funding for Obamacare. The president would certainly veto it, and he would be protected even with risking an override. So going nowhere fast with that. You say what? Well,
that's the same argument I've been hearing for decades, and that's why none of the entitlements have ever been reformed or stopped, why we're spending $2.5 trillion a year on Social Security, Medicare, and all the rest.
But
so
you know what they're saying, though. You do that, you downgrade our credit. What do you say?
If you downgrade our credit, you're only acknowledging the reality. The reality is our credit is no good. The reality is we have no budget, we have no fiscal policy. It is a fiscal doomsday machine that no one is willing to discipline or curtail. And I think that you can cause this White House to back down and at least get a one-year delay. Let there be a referendum in the fall of 2014 about whether or not the American people want this monster called Obamacare.
Do you think Republicans would suffer and get the blame for shutdown and let's say there's market havoc in the results of a shutdown, and the Republicans are going to...
There needs to be market havoc. We need to have dislocation. We need to put the fear of God in those politicians down in the Beltway. And if it takes a few days or even weeks of market turmoil, of Washington being shut down, at least except for national security, law enforcement, property and health, and all the other exemptions that are in the so-called shutdown law, we need to do that because this can't continue, and now's the time to draw the line. My view is that the White House will cave. They will allow a 1-year delay of Obamacare. They've delayed half of it already.
You really think they do that with these exchanges starting in 8 days? You really?
Yes, and I think the Republicans need to finally draw the line and not let their leadership sell them out once again like Boehner has time and time and time again.
Well, David Stockman, we shall see. In the